Revealed, how a heartwarming leap of faith transformed her life with a millionaire's love story. Amelia never imagined her boring life in that small town could lead to anything truly special until the unexpected knock on her door changed everything. A silver-haired man in a tailored suit stood there, his intense blue eyes locked onto hers, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. The townsfolk had whispered about him, the reclusive millionaire who only ventured out under the cloak of night, returning with mysterious bags and tales that twisted the mind. Who was he? Why was he at her house? What did he want? The air around them crackled with unspoken possibilities, making Amelia's heart race with both fear and excitement. She could feel the rumble of her heart in her chest, a tightness that made her breath hitch. This was no ordinary moment, it had the makings of a grand story, a fairy tale waiting to unfold. What could a man like him see in her? A plain girl with a humdrum routine? A shiver ran down her spine, the thrill of the unknown pushing her to step beyond her comfort zone. That he introduced himself as Victor Donovan, an enigmatic name that echoed through her town like a ghost. As he spoke, his charisma was magnetic. She found herself drawn into the spell of his stories about far-off lands and adventures that would make anyone's heart flutter. She could almost smell the exotic spices in the air, feel the warmth of foreign suns on her skin. Memory brought her back to reality, the mundane kitchen around her filled with the scent of burnt toast mixing with dust. How could his world ever connect with hers? The tension escalated. Each moment lingered, and she felt her pulse racing. Did he want to take her away? Would she drop everything for a chance at something breathtaking? She could see the flicker of impatience in his eyes, as if his heart raced too. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, her heart pounding louder, he leaned in closer. She could feel the warmth radiating from him, pulling her in like gravity. Suddenly, from beside them, a loud crash echoed through her quiet house. Her cat had knocked a plant off the table. They both jumped, the moment shattered, breaths held in surprise. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crash had broken their tension, but it only served to heighten her curiosity. What had just happened? Had she missed her chance to say yes? It all hung in the air, heavy with possibility. The look in Victor's eyes remained steady, fierce like a forest fire, determined to ignite something deeper. What if she took a leap of faith? What if his mysterious charm was the gateway to everything she'd ever dreamed of? As the moments ticked by, Amelia felt the world around her fade. The sun was setting, casting shadows that danced along the walls, whispering secrets of fate and fortune. In that brief silence, she realized that this was only the beginning. There was an adventure lurking just beyond her reach, a million-dollar love story waiting to unfold, but she had to choose to leap. Would she follow her heart, or let the moment slip away in fear? The choice hung heavy in the room, almost tangible. What would she do next? Amelia's eyes locked onto Victor's, the air between them charged like a thunderstorm. Her heart raced as she felt the weight of his gaze, sensing that everything had changed, that nothing would ever be the same again. The noise of the fallen plant faded into the background, replaced by the wild thrum of possibility that surged through her. What do you want from me, Victor? She finally whispered, her voice almost drowned by the thudding pulse in her ears. His smile widened, but there was an urgency in his expression that sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. I want to give you an opportunity, Amelia. One you may never have thought possible. An opportunity? The word tasted strange on her tongue. Her mind raced, tumbling through scenarios. Was he offering her a job? A chance to escape her mundane life? Or was there more? Yes. I can show you a world beyond your wildest dreams. But first, I need you to trust me. Trust. The very word seemed like a knife edge, sharp and precarious. Her instincts screamed for caution. Here stood a man shrouded in mystery, offering her the allure of the unknown. Yet, every fiber of her being yearned for adventure. She felt the ache of everything she'd never pursued, a dreamer trapped in a sleepy town, weighed down by the humdrum of daily life. Where would we go? She asked, the question trembling on her lips. Anywhere you desire, he replied, leaning in closer, the warmth of his presence wrapping around her like a blanket. We could travel to Paris, roam the streets of Tokyo, or explore the beaches of Bali. Life is more than just existing, Amelia. Amelia's mind swirled with images of travel, far-off places beckoning her, filled with laughter and excitement. Pictures of colorful markets, pristine sands, and the thrill of tasting new foods flooded her thoughts, but self-doubt crept in too. Would she be able to keep up? What if the world he conjured was just an illusion, something she would never truly attain? Victor must have sensed her hesitation, for he reached out, touching her hand lightly. A rush surged through her, electric, as their fingers brushed. I know you're afraid, he whispered. But what's the worst that could happen if you say yes? A life of regrets? Or an adventure filled with possibilities? His words struck her deep. A life of regrets felt suffocating, heavier than any weight she could imagine. But the second option sent her heart racing. Was she really ready for this leap? Could one decision reshape her future? I need time to think, she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. Victor's face fell for a moment, the flicker of disappointment clear. Time is fleeting, Amelia. The tension shifted, crackling anew. But I respect your decision. I'll give you 1 week. 1 week to join me or walk away without looking back. No regrets. Before she could respond, he stepped back, the ethereal connection dissolving into the mundane. Think of it as a wager on yourself. Just remember, these opportunities don't come often. He turned and walked toward the door, leaving her staring after him, her heart pounding in her chest. It was just another knock at the door, yet it could very well be the first step into a dazzling new world or an escape from the quiet life she had always known. As he reached for the doorknob, he paused and glanced back. Amelia, his gaze held hers, potent and penetrating. You have 1 week. Choose wisely. The door closed behind him with a soft click, sealing away his promises like a vault. Amelia stood still, her breath caught in her throat, a mix of excitement and fear swirling like a tempest inside her. What would she choose? The clock was ticking. Would she take the leap or remain shackled by the comfort of the known? The answer hung in the air, begging to be discovered. Amelia sank into the heavy silence that filled the room, the weight of Victor's departure settling on her like a thick fog. She could still feel the lingering warmth where he touched her, a sensation that sent shivers racing down her spine. Time felt swollen, each tick of the clock reminding her of the impending deadline. What do I even want? She whispered to herself, pacing the confines of her small living space. Walls that once felt safe now loomed over her, suffocating her dreams. Every aching pulse in her chest screamed for change, for adventure. But the thought of stepping into the unknown sent icy tendrils of fear snaking through her veins. Who was Victor? What if he was a master manipulator, twisting her simple life into something chaotic? As she pondered, a relentless buzz shattered her thoughts. It was her phone. She glanced at the screen and her heart lurched. Emily, her best friend since childhood, had texted. Hey. Wanna grab coffee? Need to talk. Amelia hesitated, another rush of anxiety washing over her. What would she even say? That she met a mysterious man who promised the world? That she felt a magnetic pull towards someone she barely knew? But the thought of missing out on connecting with Emily, sharing laughter and feeling grounded, drew her in. Sure, I'll be there in 20, she typed back, her fingers moving almost without thought. The cafe smelled like fresh coffee and warm pastries, a comforting hug against the chaos inside her. She spotted Emily in a corner booth, her face brightening with a smile as Amelia approached. "Hey! Long time no see," Emily said, pulling her into a tight embrace. As they settled into their seats, the chatter of other customers hummed around them, providing a perfect backdrop for their conversation. Emily sipped her cappuccino, her eyes piercing through the newly formed clouds of Amelia's hesitation. "So what's up? You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." Amelia shifted in her seat, the lump forming in her throat nearly choking her words. "I've been offered something different. Something big, and I don't know if I'm ready for it." "What kind of opportunity?" Emily leaned forward, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "It's hard to explain. A chance to travel, experience life differently. But it's from someone I just met." Emily raised an eyebrow, her expression oscillating between intrigue and concern. "Is he a creep? Or worse, a scam artist?" Amelia winced at the mention of the very fear that had been gnawing at her insides. "No. I don't think so. He just seems passionate. But it's daunting. What if I fail?" "Listen, you never know unless you take the leap, right?" Emily said, a hint of encouragement lighting her voice. "You've always dreamed of more than this place. You deserve that chance." The room pulsed with warmth, yet Amelia felt the chill of indecision creep back in, gnawing away her resolve. What if Emily was right? Or wrong? Just as she was about to respond, her phone buzzed again. Victor's name flashed across the screen, jolting her heart. "Speak of the devil," she muttered, confusion tussling with anticipation. "Who is it?" Emily asked, eyeing her phone. "Just someone I met." Amelia swiped to unlock her phone, her gaze glued to the message. "Amelia, don't forget about our conversation. I hope you're thinking hard. Remember, not all opportunities come back around. Victor." Her breath hitched, tension tightening her chest. The air around her thickened, as though the universe was holding its breath alongside her. What would she say? A simple acknowledgement? Or would she dare to take the first step toward an adventure that could rip apart everything she knew? The choice brewed inside her, swirling like a storm. Her fate rested in her hands, and she felt the weight of it bearing down. What if this moment could shift everything? But could she trust him? With her heart pounding, she glanced at Emily, who seemed to sense the shift in Amelia's mood. "Do you think I should reach out?" Amelia whispered, doubt lacing her voice. Emily's eyes sparkled with urgency. "Absolutely. If it scares you, it's worth it. Just remember, the leap isn't just about going somewhere new. It's about discovering who you really are." The words polished a faint glimmer of courage deep within her. But could she really step into the light of a world unknown? A moment of clarity pierced through the fog of doubt. Could this be her moment? As she hesitantly typed a response to Victor, the clock ticked down, one heartbeat at a time, echoing a question in the distance. What awaited her on the other side of that leap? Amelia's fingers hovered over the screen, the bright glow of her phone illuminating the intensity of her decision. Each second felt like an eternity, every heartbeat pounding in her ears. She could feel the warmth from Emily's cappuccino merging with the cool air of uncertainty swirling around her. "Just do it," Emily urged, her voice low but insistent. Amelia took a deep breath, maybe this was meant to be. With a shaky press of her thumb, she hit send. Just like that, she'd tossed the ball back in Victor's court. But a tangle of anxiety knotted in her gut. What was she getting herself into? "Now, that's the spirit," Emily said, her smile wide and reassuring. "What are you going to do if he replies?" I don't know." Amelia leaned back, looking around the cafe as if the architectural details could offer her wisdom. The wooden beams overhead seemed solid, permanent, a contrast to the fissures opening in her life. A lump formed in her throat again. She couldn't shake the feeling that every action was like a plunge into darkness. The seconds turned into minutes, and Amelia's mind raced down myriad paths. What if Victor contacted her with expectations? What if he was nothing like she imagined? What if their conversation went nowhere? Or worse, what if they connected, and it threw her already chaotic life into further disarray? Her phone buzzed again. The rush of adrenaline shot through her, her heart suspended in midair like a taut string. See? He quick. Emily leaned closer, her eyes glimmering with intrigue. Amelia's hands trembled as she unlocked her phone. She took a deep breath before reading the message. Glad to see you're open to this, Amelia. Meet me at the park tomorrow at 2 p.m. I promise, you won't regret it. Victor. The words blurred as her heart raced. Tomorrow, in broad sunlight, where decisions felt heavier under scrutiny. Could she genuinely trust him? What did he say? Emily pressed, breaking through Amelia's fog of thoughts. Her voice dripped with excitement that made Amelia uneasy. He wants to meet tomorrow, she mumbled, suddenly dizzy with the mix of anticipation and dread. Emily clapped her hands, her enthusiasm infectious. That's amazing. You have to go. Think of the possibilities. This could be everything you've ever dreamed of. Amelia bit her lip, uncertainty gnawing at her. Did she truly want this? Or was it merely a distraction from the suffocating routine she wanted to escape? As her pulse quickened, the cafe's sounds faded away, replaced by a deafening silence. In the distance, she could hear cars honking, coffee machines hissing, laughter bubbling from nearby tables. Yet, none of it reached her. What if something goes wrong? She finally voiced, her fear surfacing like a shy child in the dark. Then we figure it out, Emily replied firmly, her determination blazing. But what if it goes right? What if he asks everything? Life's too short for what-ifs. Amelia nodded slowly, the spark of determination beginning to ignite, but a familiar shadow lingered. As they finished their drinks, Emily's phone pinged. The glance she and Amelia exchanged echoed a moment of tension. Oh, it's Jake, Emily said, her tone shifting suddenly. Amelia watched as Emily's brows knitted. What's wrong? It's nothing. Just he's cancelled our plans. Emily's expression darkened for a fraction, a flicker of concern crossing her face. But Amelia was already spiraling, the sudden twist adding another layer of chaos to her own thoughts about Victor. Sometimes it feels like nothing is solid, Amelia murmured. Just when you think you're taking a leap, the ground disappears. As if in response to her anxieties, a cold gust of wind swept through the cafe, rattling the door. Goosebumps rose on her skin, the air around her crackling with hidden electricity. Maybe this is what you need, Emily suggested, gently probing. Jumping into the unknown, not just with Victor, but also with whatever happens next. A sharp ring echoed through the cafe, drawing Amelia's eye to a stranger at the door. The man's presence was magnetic, his dark eyes scanning the room. Until they locked onto her. Amelia's stomach flipped, an icy fear gripping her rational thoughts. Who was he? In that moment, everything shifted. The air thickened, and she felt as if the universe was once again pulling her toward a precipice. What was this stranger doing? Did he have a connection to Victor? And what did he mean for her life ahead? Amelia's heart raced wildly, her next decision looming closer. Could she really leap into a future where shadows from all sides converged? Would she confront them or run away? Tomorrow waited, and her uncertainties flourished like weeds in a garden newly disturbed. She felt the pull of fate as the world around her faded, leaving her with one burning question: was she prepared to face whatever awaited her, both with Victor and the enigma now filling the doorway? Amelia's breath caught in her throat as the stranger moved forward, easing through the cafe's entrance like a whisper of darkness. His sharp jawline, tousled hair, and an aura that screamed confidence wrapped around her mind like a vine, tightening. She noticed the way he seemed to glide, liquid-like across the floor, each step deliberate and purposefully directed toward her. Emily's quiet voice broke through Amelia's frozen moment. Who is that? Amelia could only shake her head, too transfixed. She was gripped by a sense of foreboding, a pulse of electricity that vibrated in her bones. The stranger stopped just feet away, his deep-set, penetrating gaze seemed to peel back layers, unearthing pieces of her that had long been buried. "Excuse me," he said, his voice rolling like thunder, deep and impactful. "Are you Amelia?" The world around her blurred. She felt the weight of every eye in the cafe on her, a collective curiosity hanging in the air. She felt small and exposed. Yeah," she whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. "I'm Kieran," he said, extending his hand. "I believe you're expecting a certain Victor tomorrow. I thought I might introduce myself first." "I don't mean to intrude." Amelia blinked, stunned. "Introduce yourself." "Sometimes, timing is everything." He smiled, but the gleam in his eyes told her there was more lurking beneath the surface. Just then, Emily interjected, her tone fluctuating between excitement and wariness. "How do you know Amelia?" Kieran's expression shifted, a flicker of caution crossed his face. "We have mutual acquaintances." His gaze settled back on Amelia, and her heart pounded erratically. Something about him felt both inviting and dangerous. She felt pulled toward him, but there was a warning bell ringing faintly in the back of her mind. "I'm just trying to figure things out," she admitted reluctantly. "Life often throws us into the deep end," Kieran said, his brow furrowing slightly. "But it's how we swim back that defines us." Amelia's stomach twisted. There was something strangely familiar in his words, something she had just voiced to Emily a moment earlier. The hair on her arm stood up, a prickly certainty crawling over her. "Can we talk more?" Kieran continued, his tone persuasive yet coaxing. "Perhaps about Victor and our interests. I promise it'll be worth your time." As she stared into his eyes, an unrelenting question began to unfold: was Kieran a friend or an enemy? Emily shifted impatiently beside her. "You know, I think we have to go, Amelia. This is just too weird." But Amelia felt rooted to the spot, as if invisible chains tethered her to the ground. Kieran leaned closer, a magnetic tension hanging in the air. "Just a quick chat, we could sit over there." He gestured to a corner table, offering an enticing semblance of privacy from the bustling cafe. The layers of anxiety twisted tighter in her chest. She needed to choose: confront the unknown, dive headfirst into this uncertainty, or retreat back to the safety of her everyday. "What do you think?" She looked at Emily, but deep down, she knew time was slipping away. And just as she opened her mouth to speak, Amelia's phone buzzed again. This time, the message felt heavier, more consequential. "I need to discuss something with you that changes everything. Meet me at the park at 2. Don't be late." Victor. The tension in her gut twisted even more violently. Victor wanted her. But now, Kieran was here, and the air buzzed thick with possibility and danger. Her heart hammered as she processed the layered implications. Did Kieran and Victor share a connection that would put her in jeopardy? In that split-second reality, Amelia felt the weight of her choices. Would she discover truths that might shatter her fragile grasp on stability, or could one meeting open up opportunities beyond her wildest imagination? A flicker of fear and excitement danced in her chest. With the unknown hovering at her fingertips, who would she trust first? As she opened her mouth to answer Kieran, a sudden crash erupted from the back of the cafe, causing heads to turn and the din of chatter to rise to a fever pitch, further darkening the air with uncertainty. Was this the defining moment before everything changed? Ahead lay secrets, revelations, and shadows ready to eclipse her decision. What other fates awaited her as she stood on the precipice, but now with chaos breaking loose around her? The thunderous crash echoed, jolting Amelia from her trance. Glass shattered against the tiled floor, and a nearby table toppled over, sending cups and plates skidding. Gasps filled the cafe, followed by a frantic rustling as patrons scrambled to identify the source of the mayhem. Amelia's heart pounded louder than the chaos. Kieran remained composed, his eyes narrowed, scanning the scene with a predatory gaze, striking an unsettling contrast to the ice-narrowed fear spreading through her. She instinctively took a step back, her body recoiling from the intensity of it all. "Stay close to me," Kieran said, his voice low, almost a growl, as he positioned himself protectively between her and the commotion. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or more scared. Was he truly looking out for her, or was this part of a deeper plot? The erratic pulse of adrenaline flooded her veins, blasting her with a mix of urgency and the thrill of danger. From the far corner, a tall figure emerged through the haze of dust and worry, hands raised to calm the crowd. It was Victor. The sight of him flooded her with memories, but as she met his eyes, something shifted within her. The warmth of familiarity clashed with the sudden chill of uncertainty. "What the hell happened?" he barked, his voice cutting through the buzz of murmurs and scattered whispers. Amelia felt the weight of his disappointment, as if their secret worlds crumbled with every second. But then Victor locked eyes with her, the intensity of his gaze anchoring her fears. Kieran stood beside her, eyes flicking between Victor and Amelia, like a wary guardian assessing an impending threat. "Just some accident," Amelia stammered, suddenly unsure of which urgency to prioritize. Would Victor's anxiety for the situation fade into something darker? "Accident?" Kieran's voice flared, snapping Amelia's attention back. "It's not always an accident when chaos breaks out. Someone clearly meant for this noise to happen." His sharp tone suggested he wasn't merely addressing her, he was alluding to an unseen hand holding the reins to their fate. The cafe patrons had started to form clusters, talking in hushed tones. News spread quickly as rumor and fear collided, and Amelia felt herself swept into the tide. Tension coiled, thickening the air, and she shivered. Victor stepped closer, brushing against Kieran, eyes sparking with scrutiny. "And who might you be?" he asked, his tone low and edged. "Just a friend looking out for Amelia," Kieran replied coolly, unfazed. "Friend?" Victor echoed, his expression shifting into something darker, more perilous. "You're in the wrong place, my friend. We cannot afford distractions right now." Amelia's mind raced. The uncertainty of Victor's intentions intermingled with Kieran's ominous vibe, leaving her stranded between two powerful influences. Was Kieran really an ally in the whirlwind, or a growing storm she hadn't anticipated? A bubbling desire to strip down the layers of mystery crept into her thoughts. She could see the clock on the wall ticking loudly, time was slipping through her fingers like sand. She needed answers fast. "That's quite a way to introduce yourself, Victor," she said, voice stronger than she felt. "Maybe Kieran knows something we don't." The moment hung heavy, a battlefield of conflicting emotions. Would this turn into an open confrontation, further unraveling the fragile edges that held her journey together? The shadows lingered ominously, threatening to swallow her whole. "Secrets have a way of revealing themselves, don't they?" Kieran mused, an almost playful glint in his eye. As Amelia glanced between them, the atmosphere crackled. Would she step forward, embracing the uncertainty that could reshape her reality, or let her fears take control? Around them, whispers grew louder, broken shards of conversation fusing into a looming question, what lay beneath the clamor, waiting to break free, and just like that, as she felt the ground shifting beneath her, another crash echoed outside, a car horn blaring, followed by a screech of tires. Was this unfolding chaos all part of a bigger scheme, pulling her deeper into mysterious waters? Or was it merely the brink of an awakening that could either rescue or ruin her? The shattering sound of glass mingled with the tense whispers and the unsettling fear that snaked through Amelia's body, tightening her chest. She could feel the chaos folding in around her as Kieran's presence became a stark reality, yet Victor's stance hinted at a different kind of power, one wrapped in intentions she desperately needed to decode. The cafe patrons had sunk into an anxious rhythm, their raised voices crackled against the walls, creating an environment thick with unspoken tension. Shadows elongated, looming over her like an impending storm. Fear resurfaced in flashes, Victor's tightly clenched jaw, Kieran's unflinching stance. She needed to disentangle the truth before it ensnared her completely. "Did you know this was going to happen?" Amelia shot at Victor, her pulse racing. She wasn't ready to trust Kieran blindly, but Victor's preoccupation with control felt just as dangerous. Victor's eyes flickered, softened for an instant under pressure. Amelia, this isn't the time. His urgency pulled her back, grounding her emotions as she felt the weight of his concern. We have bigger problems right now. Like what? What's really going on? She pressed, desperate to pierce through the layers of uncertainty. Before Victor could respond, the cafe door swung open, the bell jingling almost mockingly in the tense air. A man stepped in, drenched from the rain, face pale and eyes wide with panic. A collective hush fell over the cafe like a heavy curtain. Help! The newcomer gasped, breathless. They're after me. He stumbled forward, but before he could finish, Kieran surged forward, closing the distance between them like a storm ready to break. Calm down, he ordered, voice low and controlling. Who's after you? Amelia's heart thudded violently, tension tightening around every breath. She couldn't drown in this unexpected chaos, not now. The room pulsed with potential danger, a cataclysmic blend of fear and uncertainty. She needed to know what Kieran was hiding. Amelia, stay back, Victor urged, positioning himself like a wall between her and the stranger. Kieran's intense gaze bore into the newcomer's eyes, demanding answers. Speak clearly, or you won't get another chance. With a hitch in his voice, the man blurted, they're part of a syndicate, looking for a girl like you. The words hung in the air, heavy and sickening, like an anchor dragging her deeper into murky waters. Amelia felt a shiver creep up her spine. What do you mean, a girl like me? The man's eyes darted around the cafe. They're hunting for someone who fits your profile, something about a secret. Please, you have to believe me. Nerves jumped in her stomach, spinning into an unsettling whirlpool. She didn't know which monster was lurking in the shadows, Kieran working for a greater evil or Victor hiding secrets that could plunge her into danger. Before she could process the implications, another crash reverberated through the cafe, causing everyone to flinch. The sound of sirens filled the air, building into a crescendo that wrapped around her until she felt it in her bones. Kieran! She whisper-shouted, panic rising. What's happening? He turned his gaze back to her, his eyes flaring with something hidden, something dark. There's no time for questions. We need to move now. Amelia felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down, enveloping her in dread. Could she really trust him? Or was Victor right about the impending distractions, lurking demons waiting to strike? Caught in the clash between these two relentless forces, the stakes escalated to a breaking point. She had to make a choice. And that choice could either save her or send her spiraling into darkness. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them, deep rumblings splitting the air, and she heard shouts in the distance. Was it just the chaos outside, or something more? Whatever it was, Amelia knew one thing: the storm had arrived, and the revelation she craved was about to unfold in ways she couldn't yet fathom. But as Kieran pulled her toward the door, a chilling realization unfurled within her. Could the two men by her side be the key to her survival or the harbingers of her doom? Kieran's grip tightened around Amelia's wrist as he pulled her towards the cafe exit. Her heart raced, a frantic drumbeat echoing in her ears. Glass crunched beneath their feet, the remnants of whatever shattered moments before still sharp and piercing. The man who had cried for help stumbled after them, desperation etched into his face. Wait! You can't leave me! He pleaded, voice shaky. They'll find me if you go. Kieran turned, his intense gaze fixing on the man. If they're after you, they'll find us too. We have to get moving. He didn't wait for the man's response, jerking Amelia toward the door once more. Amelia! Victor's voice cut through the chaos, thick with urgency. Don't trust him. You don't know what he's capable of. His warning resonated, but the weight of a different truth hung in the air. The urgency of their current situation outweighed Victor's warning. Outside, the rain poured heavily, drenching the world in a chilling cascade. The streetlights flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced in time with the creeping dread tightening in her chest. Sirens wailed louder now, the unsettling melody of approaching chaos. What should we do? Amelia breathed, adrenaline flooding her veins. Where are we going? Kieran hesitated, the flicker of uncertainty flashing across his face, but it vanished almost immediately. There's a place nearby, a safe house. It's our best chance. Amelia felt a mix of fear and trust battling within her. She didn't know Kieran, not fully, but his intensity was undeniable, a power that called out to the deeper instincts in her mind. Still, she leaped into the unknown. Take me there, she said, injecting firmness into her voice. The man followed closely, his breath labored. They're not just after me. They know about you, Amelia. You have something they want. Panic fluttered violently in her chest. What do you mean? What do I have? The questions felt too big, the answers too dangerous. Secrets, he gasped. You're tied to this syndicate more than you realize. I've seen files. I know. Kieran halted abruptly, turning to confront the newcomer. Stop talking. You'll just bring them to us. But the man's wide eyes were wild, almost pleading. You don't understand. They have connections everywhere, and if they figure out who you are. Amelia felt the world around her constrict, clenching tightly as if the very air was warning her. She couldn't deny it any longer. The shadows lurking felt real, palpable, almost alive. Victor's voice sliced through her spiraling thoughts. This is a trap. Suddenly, the ground shook again, a tremor that felt less like nature and more like an approaching force. She could see the flickers of lights in the distance, neon blurs weaving through the rain. But this time it wasn't just fear she felt, it was a surge of determination. Let us go. Amelia shouted. She felt like she was racing against her own mortality, every second counting. It was time to confront the truth, whatever that truth may be. They sprinted towards the nearest alley, hearts pounding, breaths quickening. Kieran kept glancing back over his shoulder, eyes sharp, alert to the dangers hidden in the darkness. But just as they reached the alley's mouth, a black SUV screeched to a halt, tires spitting rainwater across the pavement. Shadows poured out of the vehicle like ink spilling into water, menacing and swift, their intent clear. Amelia froze, the weight of realization crashing over her. They found us. Panic clawed at her throat as anxiety wrapped around her. Move! Kieran yelled, yanking her closer just as one of the men barreled into the alley, face twisted in fury, eyes locked onto Amelia. Adrenaline shot through her veins. This could be her moment to fight or flight. The sirens were drowned out by a deafening roar of chaos surrounding them. This was no longer about running. This was about survival, but the question echoed in her mind, was she ready to face whatever awaited her in the dark? And as she stared into the vicious eyes of their pursuers, one thought lingered ominously: could the strength inside her be enough to unravel the secrets binding her to the syndicate, or would it consume her entirely? Amelia's heart raced as she felt the growing pressure of the man charging toward her, his anger radiating like a dark cloud. There was no time to think, she had to act. Kieran pushed her behind him, a solid wall of determination. Get back, he shouted, standing his ground as their pursuer closed the distance. The alley felt suffocating, the walls closing in. Without hesitation, Kieran lunged forward, tackling the man to the ground. The sound of a heavy thud echoed in the cramped space, cutting through the rain like a knife. Amelia gasped, her eyes darting between Kieran, the man, and the other figures emerging from the SUV. Two more of them, dark clothes almost blending into the shadows. Amelia, go! Kieran yelled, grappling with the man on the ground, his face flushed with effort. She hesitated, caught between fear and the instinct to flee. But panic surged, and she bolted deeper into the alley, her every instinct screaming at her to find safety. Rain sprayed against her face as she turned sharply, her breath coming in quick, frantic bursts. Just then, a voice echoed behind her. Victor was still there, shouting something she couldn't comprehend. "Amelia!" His shout cut through the chaos, laced with urgency. "They'll lead you to them." "No!" she shouted back, her voice swallowed by the roaring storm. She had no choice. She could feel the threat closing in. Kieran was doing his best. Amelia could hear the grunts and the sounds of the struggle behind her as she pressed on, sprinting into the darkness of the alley. The pounding rain took hold of every sound, merging with her wild heartbeat. Suddenly, she stumbled over something and fell hard against the slick ground. Pain shot through her palms and knees as she struggled to right herself. But she couldn't afford to slow down. Gritting her teeth, she pushed up and sprinted again, eyes scanning for anything that could offer her protection. Ahead, a break in the buildings caught her eye, a door, slightly ajar, beckoning her like a ghost in the storm. Without thinking, she dove through it, slamming it shut behind her. The resounding click from the lock echoed in her ears, a momentary victory that did little to calm the storm inside her. Inside, the room was dark and cramped. An industrial smell lingered in the air, and the walls were lined with tall shelves filled with dusty boxes. She pressed her back against the door, a hand clutching her chest as she tried to catch her breath. Footsteps approached outside, heavy and purposeful. The adrenaline surged again as she slipped behind a nearby stack of boxes, heart pounding painfully in her ears. She held her breath, listening, straining for any sign of Kieran. "You can't hide forever, Amelia." One of the voices outside taunted, a gravelly sneer coated with confidence. "We know you're in there." A chill coursed through her. They were toying with her, making her realize how vulnerable she really was. She needed to know if Kieran had made it. The thought of him facing those men alone twisted her stomach. But what lurked in those boxes? Could there be something inside that could help her? The rain slammed against the walls, a backdrop to the chaos raging in her mind. The door rattled, and the sound fevered the pace of her thoughts. She had to act fast. With a deep breath, she kicked open a box, its contents spilling out around her: papers, old tools, and a small gun. A rush of desperation surged as she seized it, her fingers trembling around the cold metal. "Open the door, Amelia, or this will get messy." Her heart sank. There was no turning back now. She could sense the impending confrontation pressing in, the weight of her decision settling heavily on her shoulders, but who would she be when the darkness finally caught up to her? And as the footsteps grew louder, echoing like a countdown, the question burned in her mind: was she prepared to pull the trigger, or would she surrender to the fate waiting on the other side of that door? The door splintered under the weight of heavy fists, splinters scattering like shrapnel. Amelia's heart raced wildly as she crouched behind the boxes, adrenaline flooding her veins. A fierce urge to fight wrestled with the overwhelming instinct to flee. "Open the door now." The gravelly voice thundered again, cutting through the tension like a blade. She gripped the gun tighter, a strange comfort in the cold metal. She didn't know how to use it, but she knew one thing: she couldn't let them take her or Kieran. With every thud against the door, fear morphed into a fiery resolve. "Come on, Amelia. You're stronger than this," she whispered to herself, vision narrowing to those forceful voices, the shadows waiting to drag her back into the chaos. Just then, a loud crash told her the door had finally given way. A creak, then a burst as the door swung open, revealing a dark figure framed by rain-soaked light. Panic surged as the first intruder stepped in, eyes gleaming with malicious intent. "Where are you?" he sneered, scanning the room. "Doesn't matter. Your little game is over." In that moment, she recalled Emily's words: "If it scares you, it's worth it." Wordlessly, Amelia took a deep breath, heart pounding. This was her moment to choose courage over despair. "I'm here," she shouted, stepping out from behind her refuge, gun trained on the intruder, hands trembling but determined. The man froze, surprise washing over his features, followed by laughter. "Really? You think a gun will stop me?" "Maybe not," Amelia replied, defiance surging in her voice. "But I'll use it to protect myself." The light flickered, casting shadows that made them all seem larger than life. Then Kieran burst through the doorway behind the intruder, grappling with another man, wrenching him to the side. "Get back, Amelia!" he bellowed, instincts honed on survival kicking into high gear. With unrelenting courage, she squeezed her eyes shut. Momentarily visions of the small-town life she had always known flashed before her, a stark contrast to the chaos enveloping her. But she couldn't retreat. "Drop it!" Kieran commanded, and the intruder's sneer morphed into a glare. This was at the moment she chose to step into her own story. "That's not happening," said Amelia breathlessly, adrenaline surging like fire through her limbs. With a flick of her wrist, she aimed at the ceiling and fired a single shot. The deafening bang fractured the air, silence following in its wake like a thin veil. The intruder's face went pale, fear surging into his eyes like shockwaves. "Crazy girl!" he shouted, staggering back, retreating into the shadows. "Now's our chance," Kieran urged, grabbing her wrist and pulling her toward the exit. Together, they rushed into the storm outside, rain cascading down and mingling with their sweat as they ran for their lives. "Where do we go?" Amelia gasped, heart still racing. There's a garage nearby. Kieran started, but just then headlights pierced the night. A black SUV rounded the corner, slowing as it spotted them. Controls slid through her fingers like sand, panic bubbling back up. "Get down!" Kieran shouted, ducking to shield her. She dropped to her knees, eyes wide with terror as the SUV stopped sharply, men pouring out, darkness trailing behind them like a heavy shroud. That in a flash, the night fell back into chaos. The unrelenting sound of impact, the shouts, the pursuit. It all felt like a blur. But Amelia's breath hitched when she felt Kieran's warmth shielding her, standing firm against the tide. "Why are you protecting me?" she finally blurted, confusion ping-ponging in her mind as they crouched low. "Because it's what I do," he replied, determination etched into every line of his face, every gesture honed for battle. "And you're worth it." His words, however simple, struck deep. Amelia thought about Victor, how his approach had felt embedded with possibility and the weight of Kieran's bravery. This was a moment she could define, a chance to embrace the unknown ahead of her with courage rather than fear. They moved fast, adrenaline pounding with each footstep toward the edge of the alley. Panting, Amelia cast a quick glance back. Kieran's eyes remained sharp and focused, their intensity a living testament of what lay beneath the surface. "Take this," he said, handing her his phone. "Call for help." Without hesitation, she pressed a button, breathing life into the device before throwing it aside. "No. I want to wait," she insisted, voice laced with newfound strength. The old Amelia was gone. This was her. Free of old constraints. With each passing moment, the threat grew, but something else shimmered, possibility. Overflowing with resolve, she stepped toward the menacing group approaching. "I'm done running," she shouted, stepping forward with defiance, heaving the weight of every choice behind her. "Amelia, don't." Kieran tried, but Amelia was resolute. "I have secrets too." The words felt like a battle cry, fierce with the memory of everything she had dreamed, and in that heartbeat, as the enemies closed in, the flicker of a smile graced her lips. She was no longer just an ordinary girl from a small town, but a warrior ready to face whatever was coming. Would they fall in line? Or would the tides rush in anew, carving her path into destiny? Whatever answer awaited her, she would face it with the fierceness she had found deep within. The world was hers to seize, and in those final moments, as darkness mingled with light, she took a step forward, ready to embrace her truth, determined to carve out a life ablaze with the intensity of a million dreams waiting to take flight. The room stood still, and in her heart, an exhilarating truth whispered, she was finally free. The leap had changed everything. Now, go on and join the adventure. Don't let this thrilling journey stop here. If you want exclusive stories and more heart-stopping moments like this, you need to subscribe immediately. Smash that like button now to show your support. Flood the comments section with all your reactions and theories about Amelia's incredible journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this thrilling conclusion with at least 5 friends who must see this. The adventure continues, and you won't want to miss what's coming.